Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I'll be honest with you guys, when I first, got my hands on this series, I was like, all right, we're gonna do another killer. Let's get through this. But
Yep.
the focus on this series, not on John Wayne Gacy, is really what I think was the driving point. And I think all your guys' characters really played a pivotal role. Michael, we gotta start with you. I was stressed out for you the entire series. Just you having to you know, as his lawyer, Sam, just try and rationalize staying with him and the battle between, you're pretty sure he did it and all. Tell me a little bit about how you found your focus for this character.
Yeah. Uh, Thanks. I appreciate it. Sam's role in this show is a really interesting one because it obviously there's the ethical question at hand of whether or not you defend somebody who's confessing to 33 murders, and then there's the personal ambition that he has for himself and for his own career, and that he's doing this for his own ego and his family's betterment. And there's a lot of fine lines, and then there's the dealing with the man himself. And by the end, Sam had really interesting things to say because um he as hard as it may seem, and as much as he acknowledges the horror and disgust that of towards the crimes that Gacy committed, and the sentiment for the families and the empathy he has his own kids, and as difficult, it was just as difficult for Sam as it was for anybody else, for any viewer, for anybody else involved in the case, to understand what Gacy went through. But he also cared for Gacy because he was his client, and he didn't want to see him executed. He wanted to see him put away and cared for, and hopefully people could benefit from studying something or a mind like Gacy's, so it couldn't happen again. So there was a lot of dichotomy and inner conflict within Sam. So and it was all there. It was all on the page. And for me, I correlated these scenes with Gacy where Sam is trying to help him, kind of like my own personal life when you're dealing with a toddler. The frustration of Gacy was, so many of these scenes I found Sam was just trying to help him. I'm just trying to help you, and you're sabotaging yourself. You're making my life harder, but you're also making your life harder. You're throwing gas on a forest fire here, and I think there was just so much. There was just so much for him. So yeah, that was always there. That was always the very basic understanding that Sam was going to live in this gray area.
And in the other corner, we have Chris as Bill, as the prosecutor. Oftentimes, I see that, and especially in these kinds of series or films, prosecutors are sometimes almost like seen as the bad guy, try to because of the fact that we spotlight the the quote unquote villain or the murderer in such a light. Tell me a little bit about how you felt the prosecutor was Bill in this case, what was handled in the series, because at times I felt like he really empathized with Sam also, just trying to like, yeah, dude, like, come on, man. You know where this is going.
Yeah, the through the conversations with Badge and Michael that we've had here and on set and things like this, it's really brought into clarity for me the complicated nature of the system that we have set up as a justice system, right? There are things that Joe Kozenzak is trying to accomplish that things have to happen perfectly in order for this to go right. He can't just do what he wants, Um, it's the same for Kunkel. Certain things have to be done exactly right in order for him to get exactly what he wants. And it's the same for, Michael's character, for Sam. It's John Wayne Gacy deserves a defense, a good defense, so that those who are innocent are afforded the same good defense. You know what I mean? Like it has to go both ways. So you find all three of these men in this odd position of coldness, and it was not lost on me. I don't know about you guys, but like it's the same level of coldness that John Wayne Gacy has, but the photo negative reverse of that. You know what I mean? There's a sociopathy to Bill Kunkel that leans towards justice, and it's the same sociopathy that exists in somebody like Gacy that leans all the way in the other direction towards, you know, murder. And so I think that's why these stories fascinate us as human beings, is that those extremes exist, and we bend one way or the other. And very few of us, bend so extremely in one direction or the other. But it was interesting to kind of explore that through these scripts.
Yeah, and actually that's kind of where I wanted to go with this conversation with James, who plays the chief investigator. One of the things I really appreciated about the series is of course the highlighting the effect of John Wayne Gacy's actions to victims, but also kind of exposing the justice system and kind of some of the things that maybe the department had done wrong in the time that maybe could have stopped this sooner. And just in general, just there's so much there. In playing Joe, what were your takeaways from all of that?
Um, mm, I shared Joe's frustration. I think it's got to be very frustrating to, and like Chris said, like these guys are, when how many bodies is too much bodies? You know what I mean? Like your police work. If you're a defense lawyer or a prosecutor, you're trying cases over and over and over again. At what point do you care about the person? And what we had was in this story because Rob Peast meant so. It just something grabbed on there where it wasn't a number. He became a person just for a second, and how frustrating that has to be when you realize that Gacy has been operating in this area for 10 years. You've had him for 10 years. He's had encounters with the police for 10 years. You've had men coming to the police station to file complaints of rape. He was let off by a judge. They didn't follow up. They didn't do the work. And that was his frustration. And that's all now piled on top of him. And unraveling that. And yeah, I think you would lose faith in a system that maybe you've had faith in that you're doing good work. You got to hope that the system's working because maybe you're not personally caring. Um, I don't know Joe. Joe's not with us anymore, but just based upon the things that I've heard him say, I think this affected him more deeply than he even acknowledged at the time.
Was there any this is an open question for any of three of you. Was there any kind of light bulb moment or revelation that you guys felt as far as the way the case was treated as you were portraying your characters?
Well, I mean, it's one of the first instances, of what how the media could affect um a case. I think it all goes to say, I didn't know the specifics about John Wayne Gacy or how many victims exactly, but I knew the name John Wayne Gacy. Um, how I think our whole true crime fad in a sort of meta way that we're all going through, where there's a new, streaming series or documentary every other week, it all stems from a case like John Wayne Gacy, back in the 70s that was fodder and consumerism and people's interest in the macabre. I mean, that's not new, but I feel like, where there were a case like this was sensationalized. And, at the core of it, it was a case. And I think that's what Sam is fighting for, that, this is a trial. This is, it's actually very important that something like this is done right.
Hmm.
Because if it's not done done and upheld to the principles and standards of our system, then what does that mean for our system? So, that's something that Sam could at least hang his hat on, and I think a really significant aspect of a John Wasey case, or any case like this that kind of breaks international barriers.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for a few minutes of your time. Your performances were great in the series, and they really put it together to really showcase spotlight on really the justice system. And I'm glad that I got to talk to all three of you in the same room. So nice to meet you all, and
Thanks, Manny.
hope
Thank
to
you,
see
Thank
you all
Manny.
you.
again.